Your pin drop.
We'll call the meeting to order, please. Roll call.
Mayor Yanish.
Here.
Councilmember Anderson.
Here.
Christensen.
Here.
Amon.
Here.
Nelson.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Dockin.
Here.
Fagerly.
Here.
DeBleek.
Here.
9 present, 0 absent.
Will you all please stand as we say the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I think that we will, do we have any proposed additions or deletions to the agenda?
Mr. Mayor,
Council.
I have one under new business to set the Board of Canvas meeting.
Okay, thank you.
I have 2 items,
Go
Mr.
ahead.
Mayor. One with leaf disposal in the city, and the other one's for the Mills downtown parking lot.
Thank you. Councilman?
I have one item, Mr. Mayor. I see we have some Boy Scouts from Troop 224 here. Would like to give them, say, agenda item 6A. Maybe they can,
Sure.
their Troop Master can give them a
We will
introduction.
put that into 6A. Do we have any consent, any further items to be added or deleted to the agenda? Thank you. Do we have any consent items from the council?
Move to approve.
Second.
A motion has been made and seconded to approve the consent items from the council meeting, or the council minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. That motion carries. We don't have any items that are removed from the consent items, so we'll get right into the introduction of the Boy Scouts. It is Boy Scouts, isn't it? Rather than Cub Scouts? Thank you.
Better get that.
Joel?
Come to the podium.
Tonight we have 12 scouts from Troop 224 at Calvary Lutheran Church here working on their citizenship in the community merit badge. So they're here as part of a requirement to see city government in action. And so they'll be observing you tonight and listening to how you proceed and how you work through the governmental process. So thank you for the opportunity for them to observe.
Thank you. Councilman?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just thank you, Joel, for bringing your scouts here tonight and everything you do for scouting. And you're welcome to stay for as long as you want during the meeting, so.
Thank you. Again, nice to see you young gentlemen here and you older gentlemen.
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead.
could I request the scouts come forward and introduce themselves?
Sure, go right ahead.
Take away some of the fear of public speaking? Like to know who these young men are.
I'm Thomas Barma. I'm Dylan Buddy.
Thank you.
I'm Peyton Meskey.
I'm Jacob Buchanan.
I'm Kellen Bobzine.
I'm Austin Bredesen.
I'm Cole Helfenstein.
I am Jacob Olson.
I'm Jack Spencer.
I'm Ethan Gustafson.
Kyle Bush. Nathaniel Larson.
Well, thank you very much. It's good to see you all. Thank you for coming. We move right into the open forum, open forum. We've, Bob Score, we have you, would you come up to the podium, please?
Oh, good.
Gentlemen, Bob Score, 617 Southwest 14th Street. I title this one, Enough is Enough. What I've been hearing about the gun range really disturbs me. First of all, it started with a gun range being closed for supposed lead contamination by really who? Then the whole building ends up in disrepair with the city offices right next door. How does this happen? Then $250,000 is set aside to fix the gun range, only for certain council members to say that was not true. So here we are again, about a year later, at the cost at about $1.3 million, and the range still not done and nothing being said about it. Why? I ask. We were told that the auditorium would be done by late November, only be told now January, but still no mention of the gun range. And again, why not the gun range? Let's talk about the lead. I was told that our previous fire chief knew about a possible issue, only to pass it on to the new chief. Again, I ask why. The two people that would have been the most exposed to the lead issue were checked for lead and both were clean. How can this be with such a severe issue as we've been told? How about the lead at the Wilmer High School soccer field, as it was totally never removed from the old trap range? Here's one for you guys. A part of the old skating rink warming house at Garfield School was used for a gun range by the police for years ago. Was that lead ever removed? I doubt it. How many people, if there's an exposure at the auditorium, were exposed to lead at the warming house over all those years? We got to quit making a big deal about this issue of the auditorium and make public the report from the lead survey testing done there so people can see really what's going on. Years ago, these issues were totally within federal and state standards, so let's address them without making such a big deal about it. Talk is certain people want to increase the cost of the lease and the shoot at the gun range where it will not be a moneymaker for the city anymore because it's too expensive for people to enjoy their shooting sports. I also was told at a council meeting by a staff person not too long ago that there was not a leak issue with the roof of the auditorium, only to hear at the League of Women Voters Forum that is costing us another $18,000 to repair the roof due to tears in the roof membrane. Well, with all my experience in life, that would cause a leak. On a couple other subjects, real quick, if we didn't have the wind turbines that were not mandated, we would have a total of approximately 7 miles of new reconstructed roads in the city of Wilmer that would work all the time. Also, FYI, police calls to West Wind Development from June 1st, 2011 to August 22nd, 2014 totaled 205. 41 to one residence alone, 21 to another. What's up with these numbers? I believe in truth, justice, and American way, and I'm a realist. How do we get along with other cultures when our culture can't get along? Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. I see no one else is scheduled to speak, so we'll move into the Finance Committee report of October 27th. Councilman Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We did meet on that date, called the meeting to order at 4:45. There was no one there from the public to comment. First item that we talked about was the audit firm report. Dave Early of the audit firm Westburn and Ishins presented a report as a result of their completion of the 2013 audit. It was noted that the 2013 financial statements reflect assets, including the component units of Rice Memorial Hospital and Wilmer Municipal Utilities, in excess of $422 million, with a total debt of approximately $135 million. The year-end change in net position for governmental activities was a negative $2,010,430. However, it was noted that the booked market value loss for the year totaled over $2.7 million. While it's required that market values are recorded, investments are generally cashed in at their original par value. The only finding resulting from this audit was in reference to OPEB reporting, which relates to other post-retirement benefits. Hildy Incorporated is the city actuary and has hired them to prepare a report, and staff is in the process of completing the required information for them. Finance Director Okens noted that the 5-year history of the annual net carryover of income or loss will be provided at a future meeting. A proposed budgetary control policy will be presented to the council for review at a future meeting as well. That was all taken for information only. The next item had to do with the auditorium. Gee, I'm dead in the water here. Pardon me a second. Thank you. Staff explained that there are several places in the auditorium roof where nails appear to be pushing up into the rubber membrane. The architect for the current auditorium improvement project, Engen Associates, is recommending that the roof be patched per the bid submitted by Cornerstone of Wilmer in the amount of $18,700. If the patching is not done, the nails will soon puncture the membrane, which will result in the need to replace the entire roof in a few years at an estimated cost of $127,500 up to $157,500. This patching will extend the life of the roof and is estimated to pay for itself within approximately 3 years. Staff recommendation is to proceed with the patching project. Administrator Stevens stated the funds could come from the contingency fund for the auditorium improvement project. Following discussion, there was a motion made, seconded, and passed, and I will introduce a resolution to patch the auditorium roof as proposed in the amount of $18,700.
Second. A motion has been made and seconded to approve a proposed change order totaling $18,700 for Cornerstone Construction to patch the roof on the auditorium. Is there any discussion? Roll call.
Councilmember Anderson.
Aye.
Christensen.
Aye.
Amman.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Dockin.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
DeBleek.
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 nays.
And that motion carries.
The next item on agenda was the 2014 improvement project interest rate. Staff explained that the 2014 street improvement project had an estimated 4.75% interest rate on the special assessments duly adopted by the council June 16th, 2014. Bonds were sold to 5 local banks with a net interest rate of 2.17%. And pursuant to council policy, the adopted interest rate for the special assessments should be set at 2 percentage points over the bond interest rate to cover lost revenues due to senior citizen deferments, permanent disabled deferments, agricultural deferments, and delinquent tax properties. Subsequently, it was staff's recommendation to lower the interest rate charged on special assessments from 4.75 to 4.17. Following discussion, there was a motion made, seconded, and passed, and I'll introduce a resolution to set the interest rate for the 2014 street improvement special assessments at 4.17%.
Second.
A motion has been made and seconded, excuse me, to lower the interest rate at 4.17% compared to 4.75%. Is there any discussion? Roll call.
Councilmember Christensen.
Aye.
Amman.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Dockin.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
DeBleek.
Aye.
Anderson.
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 nays.
That motion carries.
The next item, we had several discussions on the 2015 mayor's proposed budget. First item was agricultural deferments. Staff reported that currently there's a total of $642,000 in ag deferments qualified under this special assessment policy. Parcels need to meet certain criteria and must apply for this deferment on an annual basis. It was noted there were some ag deferred assessments written off recently because the improvement had exceeded its useful life. Staff also noted there is a Green Acres law allowing following state statute number 273-.111, under which the parcel could qualify for a deferment. Discussion raised the questions of how other similar-sized cities were implementing deferments of this nature. Also, there was some concern that there would not be a big benefit to the city if the policy were changed to cease allowing those ag deferments. Staff will contact other regional centers to learn how they handle these issues, and that'll come back to us at a future meeting. The next item was utility fee. Staff explained that the city currently has a utility of $4 per connection per month, which consists of $1 for streets, $1 for sewer, $1 for stormwater, and $1 for curb and gutter improvement costs. The revenue generated is placed in the Public Works Reserve Fund and is collected by the Willmar Municipal Utilities. The annual revenues are used in combination with community investment funds to cover the city portion of annual debt service payments. A proposed increase of $1.50 could be used or leveraged in the same manner that would generate approximately $150,000 of additional revenue annually. It was a consensus of the committee that the increase in utility fee would not be pursued in 2015, but could be addressed in 2017. Councilmember Nelson would like to know how much Willmar Municipal Utilities is able to contribute toward utility improvements during street construction. And staff is in the process of obtaining that information from the Willmar Municipal Utilities. $147,000 allocation to tax levy. The committee explored the possibility of dedicating the $147,000 portion of the tax levy that the mayor had previously included in the budget for street improvements to be used as an annual debt service for 10 years on a $1.2 million street improvement bond. The committee requested staff to compile information on how this proposal would work and present it at a future meeting. Councilmember Nelson stated that the pavement management plan needs to be reviewed to determine exactly what immediate priorities need to be addressed and then commit to a plan to accomplish that objective. The next item we talked about was franchise fees. Staff reported that the city explored a possible franchise fee in 2007 for additional budgetary revenue. At that time, there were 6,478 connections that would have generated approximately $250,000 of additional revenue. 2014 information obtained from CenterPoint Energy indicates the number of connections has increased to 6,774, or about a 5% increase, which applied to the 2007 fees would generate additional revenue of $12,500 over the 2007 projections, so the new total would be approximately $262,500. I indicated that the city should institute either the franchise fee or the additional levy proposed of $250,000, but not both. We also noted that council members have raised concerns in the past that the city should tax directly rather than indirectly, as in franchise fees. We reminded the committee that there will be a meeting on November 10th, 2014. It'll be a finance meeting with full council participation, and we will be discussing community group requests as well as hearing the Rice Hospital 2015 budget presentation. It was noted that the Willmar Municipal Utilities will be unable to attend that meeting, but will be presenting their 2015 budget at the November 17th, 2014 council meeting. On November 24th, the Finance Committee will be meeting to make a recommendation to the council for the final 2015 budget approval. Committee members requested staff to verify the estimate of potential revenue that fire calls would generate in a year if the city institutes this type of fee. And staff is working on that and will provide the information. That was the end of our discussion on the budget. The next item were some reports. We reviewed reports from the September Rice Trust, cash and investments as of September 30th, 2014, third quarter investment activity, 10-year investment balances per quarter, the third quarter interest and dividends, 10-year interest and dividends per quarter. And I requested a 5-year historical report on expenditures out of the Rice Trust Fund. Finance Director Oken stated that future meetings will include quarterly reports of market value adjustments. That was all also for information. There was no old business and there was no new business, so unless there's questions, I would move to file these minutes.
Second. A motion has been made and seconded to file the minutes of the Finance Committee meeting dated October 27th, 2014. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. That motion carries. We have the Public Works Safety Committee report of October 28th, 2014. Councilman Christensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We did meet, and we called the meeting to order. There were no public comments, so we went to the police update. Our Chief of Police, Mr. Jim Felton, noted the jail census for that day, October 28th, was 110. 60 of those being Candy County inmates, 49 from the Minnesota Department of Corrections, and 1 from Swift County. He mentioned that the calls for service for the previous 2 weeks totaled 760, and the majority of those calls were for traffic stops, followed by public assists and lost and found complaints. Drug activity was also discussed with the continued joint effort with CEE 6 Drug Task Force. Item number 4 was to accept the bid and award a contract to R&R Excavating for the Industrial Park 4th Edition Project 1405, and this is a resolution. Our Public Works Director, Mr. Christensen, brought forth for review to accept the bid and award the contract to R&R Excavating Incorporated for the Industrial Park 4th Edition, which is project number 1405. The City Council authorized advertising for bids and of the project on April 7th, council meeting for the construction of Industrial Park 4th Edition. Considerable discussion was had on awarding only the base bid or including alternate A in the award. It was recommended to award only the base bid and hold further discussion at the council meeting. And at this time, I'd like to have Bruce Peterson explain alternate A versus just getting the base bid.
Mayor Yanish, council members, this is a difficult discussion because the committee has certainly reviewed this information and has made a recommendation. I'm speaking not just from a professional standpoint, but from the standpoint of an advocate for completing our industrial park. The industrial park was the primary project to be funded from the local option sales tax. That's the way it was presented to the voters, and that's the way it was presented, quite frankly, to the legislature when the tax was approved. That's why, as a staff person, I'm recommending that we look to other local option sales tax line items to find the additional funds to complete the paving in the industrial park so we can present that to the taxpayers as a completed project. That's my take on the matter.
Okay. The discussion we had at the meeting focused on the $3.6 million for the base bid only. And we suggested that because the local option sales tax was a big part of it for the industrial park. However, the $1 million that is neither not one, it's about $800,000, I believe, to complete the project, which is the asphalt and the subgrade underneath the asphalt. That $800,000 was going to come from $1 million we had set aside for the HVAC at the Civic Center. And unbeknownst to us, the committee, that money came from lost funds. We were against using that because the HVAC system needs to be fixed at Civic Center, but we didn't know that the money was from the local option sales tax. So I would, further the discussion here, I would suggest that we move to complete the project, as Mr. Peterson has stated, because that originally was local option sales tax money.
Councilman Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. You know, I would concur with that. We went to the taxpayers, asked them to contribute money with the biggest share of it to go to the industrial park. It wouldn't seem right to not do that and then turn around and somehow tax them again to put that roadway in there to complete it. So I think we need to complete it, and the discussion needs to be held, where does that money come from? I mean, there's a couple of options there probably. The HVAC system, and we've also got money for some trails. So I think there might be a couple of options how we pay for it, but I think the first thing we should do is say, we're going to complete the roads.
Everybody understand that? That the money was coming from lost?
Mayor Yanish.
Further discussion? Councilman DeBleek.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I think the discussion at the committee is they wanted to discuss the option on where that other $1 million was going to come from to complete the project out at the industrial park. And I guess the money that was set aside for the Civic Center HVAC system is actually lost local option sales tax money, so that would be logical, and then we'd have to search for different monies for the Civic Center project if that is going to move forward. So I would concur with Chairman's recommendation that we complete the industrial park project with the alternate A, I believe it is, so.
Thank you. Councilman Nelson?
Yes. Just to clarify, when the information that was given to us, it was very clear that that $1 million for the Civic Center was local option sales tax. I think it always had been. It was in the CIP to do this year. It sounds more like it's going to be closer to $2 million to complete that project when we get that information. So I think there is a question as to where we will come up with the funds to do that. But that $1 million was put in the CIP from the local option sales tax. So I think that's very clear. I agree we need to complete the industrial park. I think the next challenge becomes where will we get the money to do what needs to be done at the Civic Center, so.
Councilman Amman?
Well, just to comment, we also discussed the price of oil, which has a definite impact on the cost of putting in the asphalt street. Right now, it's down. Whether or not it's going to go up, the question was asked whether or not we should wait and let the soil settle and make sure we come back and compact it properly and then put the street over the top. Either way, I think that can be done because it won't be done until next year anyway. Maybe I'm assuming this, but I'm assuming that maybe the contractor based that on the low prices of oil right now, so I think we should go ahead with it.
Mr. Mayor, I would move a resolution that we award the base bid and alternate A as suggested by staff to R&R Excavating.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to award the bid, accept the bid and award the contract to R&R Excavating in the amount of $3,657,690.57 for the base bid and the bid alternate A for bituminous pavement. Any discussion? Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just need a clarification. Are you suggesting where the money comes from, or will that be at a later? I don't know what.
That can be up to staff, because it could be one of two places, from what I understand.
We'll have to make that determination, I would think.
We can bring an amendment to the Finance Committee, but it will be from local option sales tax, so it will either, reduce the program that was in the 2014 budget, and it was a budgeted project. It was in the 2014 CIP for local option sales tax for the Civic Center's HVAC, and then we could look at a couple other projects that are in there are some trail projects.
Okay, but my concern, at this point, we're not saying where that money comes from. We're just
It's
saying
not included in
do
the
it,
current
and then
motion.
We'll figure that out here in the very near future. Okay.
Is that a clear enough motion, Kevin?
At this point, we're just adopting the resolution awarding it to R&R Excavating, Inc. out of Hutchinson at $3.6 million. The funding will not be part of this resolution, so
Mayor Yanis?
we're not.
But I included alternate A, as was staff's recommendation in my motion. It wasn't.
Correct.
That gets it to $3.6 million from the $2.6 million. Base bid plus alternate A. So we're
Correct.
awarding it for $3,657,000.
Okay.
Councilwoman Nelson?
It's my understanding they would start work on this process as soon as we approve it, as it was explained to us in Public Works. Do we not need to find the funds to do that tonight, or does that not matter?
I think you can, if you wish to make the amendment to change the project from local option sales tax for the Civic Center, you could do that this evening. Otherwise, it could be done at the next council meeting. I mean, the entire contract obviously will not be paid in one lump sum, so the funding is in place to begin the contract.
Mayor, just a reminder, we will have a finance meeting with full council participation next Monday.
That's correct.
So, I mean, it could be addressed if we need.
But if you're
the
comfortable
funds-
addressing it this evening, you can do that this evening.
Any further discussion? And that would be a roll call.
Councilmember Amon.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Dockin.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
DeBleek.
Aye.
Anderson.
Aye.
Christensen.
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 nays.
And that motion carries.
Our next item had to do with accepting project and authorizing final payment for number 1311. This is also a resolution. Our Public Works Director brought forth for approval acceptance of project number 1311 and to authorize final payment to Geislinger and Sons Incorporated in the amount of $275,000. The City Council entered into an agreement with Geislinger and Sons on August 19, 2013 for the Sperryville Lift Station. The final pay request has been submitted and staff is recommending final payment be made. After some discussion, a motion was made, seconded and passed for the following, and I will introduce a resolution to accept project number 1311 and authorize final payment to Geislinger and Sons in the amount of $275,000.
Second.
A motion has been made and seconded to accept project number 1311 and authorize final payment to Geislinger and Sons in the amount of $275,000. Is there any discussion? Roll call.
Councilmember Nelson.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Dockin.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
DeBleek.
Aye.
Anderson.
Aye.
Christensen.
Aye.
Amon.
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 nays.
And that carries.
Item number 6 was bid and award contract for the MnDOT SPA 3401-65, which is drainage improvements around our nav aids out at the airport. Once again, our Public Works Director brought to us for approval to accept bids and award the contract for this project of drainage improvements around the nav aids to Land Pride Construction LLC from Paynesville, Minnesota. The amount is $11,883, contingent upon MnDOT concurrence. Bolton and Menk obtained bids from contractors for grading and drainage improvements around the nav aids equipment, with Land Pride Construction being the lowest submitter. After some discussion, motion was made, seconded to pass for the following, and I will introduce the resolution to award the contract for MnDOT SPA 3401-65 for drainage improvements around the nav aids to Land Pride Construction LLC in the amount of $11,883.
I'll second that.
A motion has been made and seconded to approve and accept the bids and awards to contract for MnDOT SPA 3401-65 drainage improvements around nav aids to Land Pride Construction LLC of Paynesville, Minnesota, in the amount of $11,883 contingent on the MnDOT concurrence. Is there any discussion? Roll call.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
Dockin.
Aye.
Fagerly. DeBleek.
Aye.
Anderson.
Aye.
Christensen.
Aye.
Amon.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 nays.
And that carries.
And for the public's information, the nav aids is a navigational equipment that is located in a little building out by the airport. It cannot be raised up. It's in a lower area and there's water around it, so we need to fix that. Item number 7 is a resolution authorizing acceptance and signature of the MnDOT grant agreement for the previous item. Public Works Director Christensen again brought forth for approval to adopt the resolution accepting the MnDOT grant agreement number 06799 for these drainage improvements around the nav aids. Bids were obtained for the drainage improvement, and with Land Pride Construction being the awarded contractor, the grant will fund 80% of the project, totaling $11,858. The remaining 20% is the city's share, which is $2,964.60. Again, a motion was made, seconded and passed for the following, and I will introduce the resolution to adopt the resolution accepting the MnDOT grant agreement, number 06799. Second.
A motion has been made and seconded to adapt the resolution accepting and signing a MnDOT grant agreement SP 06799 for drainage improvements around nav aids. Is there any discussion? Roll call.
Councilmember Dockin.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
DeBleek.
Aye.
Anderson.
Aye.
Christensen.
Aye.
Amon.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 nays.
And that carries.
There was no old business, but under new business, our Public Works Director stated that the tree bids will be opened on Tuesday, October 30th, last Tuesday, 1 p.m. The trees listed in the quote request included spring snow scrab, amur, chokecherry, maple, elm, linden, and oak varieties. Also, a tour of the auditorium is being set up for the council members to attend, and the dates are being finalized. I believe we received them by email today. Auditorium gutters have recently been lined, and the fascia and corbels have been painted. The installation of the new LED lights along Wilmer Avenue is complete, and the brush site is scheduled to close on Saturday, November 22nd. A couple of existing and potential traffic light locations were also discussed. There being no other business come before the committee, I would move to file these minutes.
Second.
A motion has been made and seconded to file the minutes of the Public Works Safety Committee dated October 28, 2014. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. That motion carries. Consideration of the CER Joint Powers,
You got to go to community development.
oh, I'm sorry, Community Development Committee report on October 29th. Councilman Fagerly.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you can see, I'm doing it the old-fashioned way. My iPad locked up today, and they never called from City Hall to say it was done, so I don't know what happened.
I will check into that tomorrow for you.
All right, thank you. Item number 2 is public comments. There was no public comments. Item 3, the Wardell tax abatement. Gus Wardell presented his request for tax abatement. He explained the development project to repopulate the East Mobile Home Park, which used to be called Mobile Estates and Regency East, which he just purchased a few weeks ago. The capital expenditures are not included in the cash flows, which makes the cash flow deficit even greater. Kansas County will also be asked to abate all or a portion of the taxes on the mobile home park redevelopment. Mr. Wardell said the existing infrastructure is well engineered. Not all streets need to be replaced. Parking pads will be. Sewer and water lines will be repaired as needed. Electrical upgrades were done several years ago, but services will be reconstructed as new homes are brought into the park. Also planned for the redeveloped park are a new playground, soccer field, and a full security system on the street lighting. Over 100 trees will be trimmed, and privacy fencing is planned for the frontages on Lakeland Drive and Civic Center Drive. All of the new homes will go on concrete foundations. He estimates 118 homes when it is totally filled out. There are 36 homes currently in the park. 3 of those are to be removed in the near future. Applications have been received from 7 current residents to purchase new homes. That leaves 29 homes to be removed over time. Mr. Wardell will be working with housing agencies and local financial institutions to coordinate home purchases. Buyers will be able to choose between single or double-wide homes. It is anticipated that most will be 16 feet by 76 feet. All homes will be required to be owner-occupied. The committee discussed the project and how the city could provide assistance on this major housing project through the use of tax abatement. A motion was made and seconded and passed to set a public hearing on the tax abatement for December 1st, 2014, and to move to establish a 10-year abatement of the city portion of real estate taxes not to exceed $25,000 for that 10-year period. This motion carried with Councilmember Johnson abstaining, and I'll introduce that motion.
Second.
A motion has been made and seconded to set a public hearing on a tax abatement request for December 1st, 2014. Am I right?
Correct.
Do we have any comments from the staff?
Not unless there are any questions, I don't think.
Okay. At that point, we will,
There's a question over there, Mr.
go ahead, I'm sorry.
I just need a clarification. The amount to be abated not to exceed $25,000 for the life of the
For
project?
the life of the project, be about $2,500
$2,500?
per year,
Okay.
but that's just for the land. Once the people bring in the homes, that'll be taxed, and that's not included.
Is that tax? Is that personal
It's
property
personal
tax?
property.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess Councilmember Anderson just pointed out that that is a misprint in the minutes. It says 25,000 per year, so.
I corrected it.
Councilman Johnson?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just would comment on my abstention at the committee meeting. I had suffered some iPad difficulties and had not received any of the materials. They normally, for public's information, are electronically downloaded, and, you know, they usually arrive on the Thursday before the committee meetings of the following week, and due to some software issues with on our iPads, they weren't downloading, they were full. And I understand our tech department since corrected that, and mine's now working, but that was the reason for my abstention. I had not read.
Thank you for explaining that, Matt. Is there any further discussion? Councilman Ahmed?
Oh, just a question. Mr. Gus Wardell, is that the correct pronunciation? Is from Hutchinson, and he recently acquired the land or purchased the property. I understand this, he's requesting it, and he's a new LLC corporation. Has the background information been done yet as far as the financial stability and the possibility or the capability of the individual to pay for this without the tax abatement, and where are the numbers to show that?
At the request of staff, Mr. Wardell submitted cash flow information for years 1, 5, and 10, and in my analysis, I deem his cash flow projections to be accurate because they basically deal simply with operational costs and debt service. They do not even include the capital expenditures that he's going to make to the park. I believe that the developer is well-suited financially to take this project on. He's been very successful with a similar project in Hutchinson, and the cash flow analysis that he has submitted and that staff has reviewed definitely indicates there is a need for tax abatement. Just a quick review of the abatement would show that over the 10-year life of the abatement, the city's contribution would be $25,000. That's less than 1/3 of the first year's shortfall in cash flow. So it's going to require some ongoing investment by the owner to make this thing happen as the park fills. And in seeing the information that Mr. Wardell has submitted, I have every confidence that he's capable of doing that.
And that information was included in the community development agenda for the prior week.
Is there any further discussion?
Well, just curious, $250,000. Do we have any idea what the payback?
No, it's $25,000.
$25,000
Total.
total.
Over the
not
10 years, it's
250.
$2,500 per year.
Sorry, I was a little confused in the numbers there for a minute. Everybody was talking differently. Okay, that's fine. It's a good improvement to that area.
Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. The motion carries.
Item 4 was old business. There was no old business to come before the committee. Item 5 was new business. This is oil air products tax abatement request. Staff presented a preliminary request by Oil Air Products for tax abatement assistance in a planned move from Litchfield to Wilmer, including business expansion. Steve Rehnquist from the EDC, and he's in the audience, who prepared the initial request letter, was unable to attend our meeting. Doug Fenstra, who's also here, is a project realtor, provided information about the proposal by the company to lease a portion of the Donner Building on East Highway 12. And that was the old Pomeda Building, just for reference. That's up on the screen. Approximately 18,000 square feet would be leased by the company. This will be a new business in town with 9 employees initially, and plans to add 4 more in the near future. There's a possibility that as the company grows, they could relocate to a new building in the industrial park. Mr. Fenstra explained the additional costs being faced by the company in their move to Wilmer, primarily in the area of real estate taxes. It was acknowledged that the facility that they lease in Litchfield is 1/2 as large and not nearly in as good a condition as the Donner property. So it was naturally not valued as high as the Wilmer property. Staff told the committee that a review of the city's tax abatement policies found that the project request would meet the criteria for the use of tax abatement. It was noted that at this time, staff was recommending preliminary approval and the company be invited to submit a complete application for future review. A motion was made and seconded that the city offer preliminary approval to the tax abatement request and invite the company to submit a full application. That motion carried, and I'll introduce it.
Second. A motion has been made and seconded that the city offer preliminary approval to the tax abatement request and invite the company to submit a full application. Discussion.
Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead.
Will the abatement be given to, or is this 2 different parcels of property, or Dunner Wright is the owner and this is going to be leased? So this request is going to have to be drawn up with the owner of the building, correct?
The abatement will be going to the company. The business subsidy agreement will be written with the company of Oil Air Products. We'll have to figure out exactly how we structure the abatement because it is a property tax abatement, so it naturally will go to the person paying the taxes. I suspect the actual abatement would be with Donner, and then those savings would be passed on to Oil Air Products in the lease.
Do you know how much we're getting, Bruce, out of curiosity, what the current tax income we're receiving on that portion of the property?
I believe the city share is somewhere in the neighborhood of $4,000 per year, and what Mr. Rehnquist and I have discussed is a phased abatement where it would phase itself out over a period of several years and would not be a total abatement for the statutory life of the abatement that the city could possibly offer. We're looking at a downsized abatement in this particular case.
Just out of curiosity, is the revenue as far as evaluation of that building once somebody's moved in there and operating higher, or is it still based on the same use?
I believe that in that particular case, there's a couple different ways that you can look at the value of the building, and I'm guessing our assessing office would probably analyze it from a couple different standpoints as well, and one would be the cost basis, and the other one would probably be the income approach. I'm not sure exactly how they would do it here, but I don't really foresee any major change to building valuation or tax generation from that property.
Just another question. Mr. Chair, Council, I hate to ask 20 questions every time these abatements come up. Do you think we could have this information sent to us? I did not receive that information.
It has not been generated yet because it's just a preliminary request. We'll collect all of that with the full application and make sure that that goes to council when this matter goes back to committee again.
Okay. Nothing on the wages or what type of jobs?
We'll collect that and bring that forward.
Oh, the other final last question, I'll get back to it. As far as, this is the first time we've actually, at least I recall, if you could enlighten me, I'd appreciate it, as far as an abatement given to a leasing corporation. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And is that standard around other areas? I've never seen it done here. Usually it's the owner of the building that it's given to.
Well, I mean, we can do it either way. If it goes to the owner of the building, he just charges less rent. They would negotiate a lower rent. And in this particular case, whether or not the abatement gets passed directly through the owner to the company is up to them to work out, or the owner could certainly get the abatement and pass that savings on to the company. So ultimately, it flows through to the new business, not to the property owner.
I understand that. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Councilman Fagerby?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To Mr. Peterson, does the zoning have to be changed for that building? Because I got a call 7:45 this morning at the office that some of the neighbors got letters from the city.
They have applied for a conditional use permit because it's a type of use that is not specifically delineated for that district. Our zoning ordinance gives the planning commission the flexibility to consider that use with a conditional use permit. It's such a mixed use because it's got an assembly component, it's got a distribution component, a retail component, and an office component, that the planning commission has offered a preliminary approval that it's certainly compatible from an intensity and use standpoint with the other uses in that district.
All right, thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Do we have any comments from the Realtor or from the EDC person? Thank you. If there's no further discussion, a motion.
It's been made and seconded.
Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. That motion carries.
And that was the last of our business, and the meeting adjourned at 6 o'clock, so I'll move to file the minutes.
Second.
A motion has been made and seconded to file the minutes of the Community Development Committee report on October 29th, 2014. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. That motion carries. Consideration of the CER Joint Powers Board Agreement between the city and the Wilmer Public Schools. Can we have someone explain that to us?
Mr. Brizendine can review the changes to it.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, before you tonight is the Joint Powers Agreement approval between the city of Wilmer and Wilmer Public Schools. As many of you know, we merged in the year 2000, sharing community education and recreation services between the two entities. We have made it a practice over the last number of years to bring this agreement to the table every 3 years for approval from both entities. Wilmer Public Schools agreed to this agreement, passed this agreement at their last school board meeting in October. Thus, it's coming forward to the school, for the city of Wilmer to consider agreement for another 3 years, or as they see fit, arranging this. There were two changes made, or two changes proposed for this agreement. One article was 5.7 addresses changes in how we present the CIP to the city of Wilmer. In the original language, it talked about bringing it from the board to the community development. Basically, the process that the city is using is what this will now do moving forward. And the other change was the time frame for either entity to opt out of the agreement. In the past, it had been a 6-month opt-out time frame. We think, given budgets and the fact that the city and school run 2 different fiscal years, that a 12-month opt-out is best for both parties going forward. So those are the two changes. Otherwise, everything you see in the agreement is as it was originally stated 15 years ago. The compensation dollars, in essence, is half of my contract, and the original agreement talked about attrition of staff, and we've had 2 retirements in the city ranks. Dave Gort's longtime position, and Leanne Freeman with her latest retirement. those employees move to the school district versus being city employees. So that's where you get the financial consideration dollar amount that's spoken is half the compensation for the director and then those two positions. I would stand for questions.
Are there any questions for Councilperson?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess, question under the change in 5.7. The staff is now going to be responsible to bring that 5-year park facilities plan forward or develop it. Why was not the Joint Powers Board the responsible entity for making sure that plan is developed? Now it's being moved to staff.
Staff has always developed that plan and has brought it forward to the city council for approval. We do bring it through the Joint Powers Board for them to review, but the reality of it is that's the way it's always been done, so we're changing the language to make it state how it had been done, because it's been a city practice.
Question, I know that's a lot of it, I don't know that it's the staff's responsibility to do it. It should be the responsibility of the Joint Powers Board to see that happens. I don't know, maybe a question of the attorney. We're moving responsibility to see that something happens to staff rather than, and I know a lot of places we have it where it is staff that is actually does it, but it's the board that has got the responsibility to make sure it happens.
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember DeBleek, I'm reading the language in Section 5.7 that we're discussing, and it looks to me like it places the responsibility for developing the plan on the community ed and rec staff, that it must be then presented to the Joint Powers Board for revision and approval before it's referred to the City Council and the school board for adoption. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So I do think the responsibility there is on the Joint Powers Board to ultimately give something to the City Council and the school district.
But the wording is kind of odd there.
Again, I would
Once
say
you
I think it
pull out the
reflects
Joint Powers
I think it reflects the practice where the staff has the responsibility for developing that and submitting that to the Joint Powers Board, which has to approve that submittal or direct staff to revise it, and then it goes forth from there, rather than the board itself trying to develop projects.
If I am reading this right, does the EDC or the Joint Powers Board have to vote on this before the council does?
As the attorney just stated, that's the practice that we'd like to move forward with, is that the staff would present it to the Joint Powers Board of Community Education and Recreation for approval, and then forward it on to the City Council for adoption and any changes that they would see fit.
Councilman Nelson?
Yes.
Councilwoman Nelson?
I don't think that in practice that 5.7 had been followed prior to the changes with this. I would hope that with the strategic planning that the board's doing, that 5.7, the way it reads now, that the staff will get the approval from the Joint Powers Board. I had expressed a concern about removing the Planning Commission from that, and as I understand in practice, that still will go before the Planning Commission as part of the CIP process from the city.
That's correct.
As part of the department heads. Is
Well,
that correct?
as part of the overall CIP plan that's presented to the City Council.
Okay.
So that what is approved by the Joint Powers Board would be incorporated into that, and then that's part of the city's overall capital improvements planning.
I know from serving on the Charter Commission, there was wanting that park board to remain in place and to have some checks and balances. I think that this will actually strengthen some of those things with that, and I think that's part of what's going on with the Joint Powers Board too, is to work with the strategic planning and to have some more say in both the budgeting and the process. So,
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead.
I would move approval of the agreement.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to have the approval on the CER Joint Powers Board Agreement between the city and the Wilmer Public Schools. Is there any
Mayor?
discussion?
Yes. It's 13 years we've had the agreement with the, or
March of 2000, so
March of
14 plus years.
14 plus years. How's it working out for us? This was adopted and changed when I was off the council in the past and it was accepted. How's it working out? I know there were some concerns brought up during the charter meetings a few years back, but I'm just curious what, everything's going good, Steve?
From our perspective, it is.
That's good to know.
Any further questions? Councilman DeBleek?
Yeah, and understand that the school board has reapproved the agreement with the current verbiage.
Correct, at their October meeting.
Mayor Yanis,
Go ahead.
just a clarification, what are the dates going to be on this agreement?
I don't have
What's
that in
the
front
term
of me.
of it?
Oh,
It's a
we bring it
three-year,
back
but-
every 3 years is what the
But it
game plan
hasn't
would
been
be.
signed for at least 2 years, so I'm just curious if this is
It would
filling
be
in
based
the,
upon the current dates, correct?
Yeah, I think that's correct. If I am remembering correctly, I thought the, strictly going by the terms of the agreement, it's a perpetual agreement, and there's now a 12-month opt-out, assuming that the proposed changes are approved. So it basically is in effect until it's not anymore, until one party decides not to. Now, having said that, I understand the practice is to bring it back every 3 years for approval, maybe some minor changes or major changes, I don't know, but
And that practice began a few years back when it was determined that terms for members turn over every 3 years. So we thought it'd be a good refresher for new members as they come on to share this with the policymakers.
Is there any further discussion? Is this a roll call or a motion?
It is not, sir.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. That motion carries. Consideration of the Industrial Park 4th Edition Final Plat. Bruce?
Missed one.
Bruce?
There's one before that, Mr. Mayor.
No. I'm sorry, you missed item 12, which is the currency exchange applications.
Consideration of the currency application of Quick Funds and Bennett Ventures Incorporated. That be you, Kevin?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, staff has received 2 applications from the Department of Commerce for 2 businesses that currently have currency exchange activities in this town. Pursuant to a new annual request, the city is allowed to hold public hearings and have the public make comment on those practices. It's staff's recommendation that we just call for a hearing. The next meeting is November 17th, and each one of them could have a public hearing.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve the 2015 currency exchange license renewal hearings on November 17th, 2014. Is there any discussion? And that would be a resolution? Motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. That motion carries. In consideration of the Industrial Park Edition Final Plat.
Mayor
That would
Yanis,
be-
members of the council, concurrent with the final engineering of the industrial park project was the preparation of the industrial park plat. It was necessary to do them concurrently because there were engineering considerations that impacted the type and location of easements within that plat. Now that the final design for engineering improvements, the infrastructure has been completed, we have worked with Bonema Surveys to complete the final plat for that park. It's resulted in a 25-lot plat with 2 major outlots for stormwater retention. In this particular development, it will not be necessary for the purchasers of the property to provide on-site retention as it's all accommodated with the regional ponds that are being constructed under the project that was awarded by the council tonight. It's a recommendation of staff that the final plat for the Industrial Park 4th Edition be approved as submitted.
Mr. Mayor, I'll move approval.
Second.
A motion has been made and seconded to approve the consideration of the Industrial 4th Additional Final Plat. Staff recommends the approval of the final plat. Is there any discussion? A motion on that? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. That motion carries. We have the, new business.
Mr. Mayor, we need to set a date for the Board of Canvas, and maybe Mr. Halliday can explain some of the legalities of that.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, subsequent to tomorrow's general election, within 3 days to 10 days after, the city council must hold a meeting to canvass the ballots and report to the Secretary of State. It is my recommendation that we meet on Friday, November 7th at 3 p.m., Conference Room 1 at City Hall. All council members are requested to attend. We do need 5, and certainly in municipal governments, candidates may be on the Board of Canvass.
I would make that recommendation, or that motion to have it on Friday at 3 p.m.
Second.
A motion has been made and seconded to have the meeting for the
Board of Canvas.
Board of Canvas at 3 p.m. at Friday, the 7th of November at City Hall. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed say no. That motion carries. I wanted to mention that the polls will open tomorrow at 7 a.m. Go ahead.
I think you had a little bit more.
I have 2
Mr.
items.
Hammond had a couple of things.
Okay, comment first.
One issue I'd like, or a thought I'd like to bring up, a discussion after talking to some downtown merchants. The Mills property dealership, the former car dealership that has currently been empty for, I don't know, going on 2, maybe 3 years now. As far as overflow parking there, I know that everybody's talking about parking in the downtown. We understand the study says that we're in pretty good shape. I'm curious to see if we could maybe contact Mills Corporation or the Mills Company to discuss if they're interested in letting us use that property for flowing, for overflow parking for people if we maintain it. I think we could provide a better service for the customers that serve the downtown area or use the downtown area. And I just wanted to bring that up for a thought and any discussion.
Councilman Christensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. They have signs over there stating no parking, and it's partly for liability. They don't want anything going on that property, including city parking.
I understand that.
If something happened, they own it, their insurance would have to cover it.
Well, that could be covered with the right contract or agreement, legal agreement, if they're willing to participate with that type of parking situation. It'd be good for the downtown.
Do you have a suggestion as to who contacts them?
Pardon me?
Do you have a suggestion as to who contacts them?
No, I think we usually could have staff, unless you want to do it, Mr. Mayor.
Let's have staff do it. Councilman.
Yes. I'd be curious if we would, if that's something we're thinking about, that we check out the cost, first of all. What it would cost to insure and to do snow removal. And since there isn't a shortage of parking, according to the parking study, I'm not sure why we would want to have additional costs at this time.
Minimal cost, but if we need it, I'd like to know how long that building is going to sit there. There's another reason for that discussion. The second phase, of course, would be to find out what we're going to do with that property. What we would like to, obviously, as the city goes, have that building filled up with business. And also, they have another property on First Street, and I think it'd be worthwhile as a major property owner to have some discussions with them and see what we can do together. They may be willing to participate, they may not, but I figure we have to go out and reach out and talk to them. I thought it might be a good time for staff or Bruce or Steve Reinquist to sit down and meet with them along with the mayor and the city administrator and just see if they're willing to talk to us. Find out what those properties are going to be doing.
Very good.
Also, Mr. Mayor, at the Public Works meeting, I brought up the issue of recycling leaves, providing a service, we're a service-based company, you might say, providing services for the customers if they want it, and the customers, of course, are the taxpayers. And I was out at the brush site the other day, and I took an inventory of some of the people out there, about 70 individuals who came out there with their vehicles to empty out their leaves. Some cities do have, I brought this up at Public Works, some cities do have leaf removal or have disposable biodegradable bags that are provided at a cost, and then the city crews pick them up. I'm just curious if that's something we could bring to the Public Works and get that on the agenda. It's something we can work on. It's a budgetary item if we're going to do it, but also by standing out there Saturday afternoon, I had 77 votes. 30 of them were yes, 21 of them were no, and all those people had trailers and trucks. And then 16 other people said it all depends on the cost of the bags. If we can provide a service to our constituents and we can do it at a reasonable cost, I'd just like to explore that possibility. The other option, of course, is a large vacuum truck to remove the leaves. I also asked Ms. Stevens just late this afternoon to see if she'd give me a number of how many loads of people come out there every day. But just for information, there were 230 vehicles that came in on Saturday alone. So it's a considerable amount of gas of people driving back and forth, and if we can provide a service, I think we should look into it. And I'd appreciate the council's support on that.
Thank you.
That's it, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Any further discussion? I would like to finish by polls open tomorrow at 7 a.m. and close at 8 p.m. So I would make this plea to you to please vote tomorrow. Thank you. Finance, do we have a meeting?
The Finance Committee and the full council will be ongoing discussion on the budget. It will be next Monday, November 10th at 4 p.m. here. Full council, I'm hoping we can get some issues resolved and get some decisions made at that meeting, in addition to hearing from the community organizations, and the Rice Hospital will be there as well. But hope we can get some decisions and move the budget process forward.
What time will that begin?
4 p.m.
4 p.m.? Public Works, Councilman Christensen.
Next Tuesday is a holiday, Veterans Day. We've moved our Public Works Public Safety meeting to Thursday, November 13th at City Hall, 4:45 p.m. And a reminder that there will be a Veterans celebration by Mr. John Lindstrand. It'll be located in the old Kmart building in the Candy Mall. And I believe it's Tuesday at 7 p.m. You can check the paper for it.
Labor, Councilman Alman.
No meeting scheduled today.
And Community Development, Councilman Fagerly.
No meeting scheduled.
I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So seconded.
We are, a motion and second, we are adjourned.